Thank you for taking time with us. I really appreciate your contribution to the newsletter.
Yeah.
I feel like our clients would really appreciate, getting information about their home and learning more about allergies and what they can do in their home first to kind of help get relief and just information. So then we thought we'd kind of extend that conversation a little bit here, put it on video, and give our audience something else to kind of go from and try to answer some of the questions we feel like might be basic questions that average everyday people might be thinking but maybe don't know who to ask or not sure where to find or maybe have Googled but weren't sure if they should believe what's on the internet.
Sounds good.
I thought we'd run through those questions with you really quick, so thank you for taking the time to answer them.
Absolutely.
So first, the question we have is, are seasonal allergies just life, meaning not much you can do about it, you just kind of have to live with it? Or can these actually be reduced or eliminated? And if so, is there something to look to first? Like, what's the easy steps if there's something we can do about seasonal allergies?
Right. Well, allergies are not something people have to suffer from. They definitely are not something that people have to suffer from. I consider, say, pollen, mold, dander, home allergies to be something that just kind of fills up our bucket. So the more that we can do to keep the bucket empty, the less that home allergens, whether it's mold or dander or things that accumulate in our pillows and our sofas or pollen outdoors, the less these are going to be a factor in our life. And there's a lot of things from a naturopathic perspective that you can do to whether it's just at home or whether using a physician like myself, there's a lot of things that you can do to eliminate allergies.
Okay, great. So
and
those
asthma, for that matter.
Oh, wow. Okay, so even moving into conditions, if you will, not just symptoms that kind of come and go, but like ongoing symptoms. Okay.
Right.
And so there are simple things. Any suggestions, any simple suggestions on things that we could do that would be simple that a person could work with to relieve those symptoms at home? Where can we start first?
Well, one of the reasons why I like the idea of working with you and your newsletter is because I think what you do is fantastic. I think everyone should use your services to make sure their upholstery is clean, make sure their carpets are clean, make sure their beds are clean. Remember, our respiratory system is face-to-face with our pillow for hopefully 8 hours a day, but usually 5 or 6 hours a day. But still, that's a long time to be breathing in something that if it's moldy or if it has animal dander in it or dust or anything like that, it's going to cause us major problems. So I think what you do is fantastic, and I think that's a basic thing that we should do.
Okay.
From a more naturopathic perspective, the place we always begin is food choices. I would say 70 to 80% of allergies can be reduced if people make proper food choices. Of course, back in 1800s, people ate homegrown food, even up to World War II when mass transit became available. People ate homegrown food. There was no such thing as organic because everything was organic. So people were able to, without working too hard about making decisions about what they ate whole foods. There was very low processing in the foods. But the more food is processed, the less organic food that you consume, the more of a metabolic burden you're putting on your detoxification systems. And then when pollen comes along, and then when animal dander comes along, it's just going to make the bucket overflow. So wise food choices is probably the number one thing that I work with my patients. And just by doing that alone, I'd say 70 to 80% of my patients experience reduced or eliminated allergy symptoms.
Okay, great. So start with cleaning. I mean, keep your home clean first of all, simple there, and then beyond that, just making good food choices. And then beyond that, if there's still some peripheral or residual symptoms, maybe contact you, and you can kind of start to discover those things with them. But start with the basics, because if they come to you, you're probably going to start with the basics anyway.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and there's a number of testing. There's a number of tests that we can do to look at their detoxification burden. There's a number of things that we can do to see how their liver is functioning. The less their liver is functioning, the more likely it is you'll be suffering from allergies and asthma.
Okay. And that kind of explains in a real simple way why sometimes we have symptoms sometimes and other times we have no symptoms, because the bucket may be teetering on full, and then we get this outside or external force that comes in, such as seasonal pollen increases or something like that, or maybe we have a new animal in the house that we didn't have before, and suddenly our immune system is just kind of on red alert because it's overflowing, and our body's not sure how to compensate. So,
and houses in the 40s, say, they were, I don't know what to say, they were leaky, all right? There was airflow in them, and obviously in terms of conserving heat and keeping your heat bills down low, that's not so good. But in terms of getting fresh oxygen into the house, that's excellent. Now, in the 80s and 90s, not only did kind of building materials and the use of formaldehyde and all of these toxic products increase, but houses are better insulated now, so there's less airflow between inside the house and outside the house. So it means that mold and dander now are accumulating even more in households. So if you have an old house, it might not be the greatest thing for your heating bill, but it's probably a lot better for your health.
Ironically. Okay, right. Good information. So that kind of segues well into our second question, so it might be a little bit of a recap. But according to the EPA, in modern times, we spend about 90% of our time indoors, statistically. And they've studied indoor environments, and they've deduced that there's somewhere between 2 and 5 times more pollution indoors, ironically, as you mentioned, from the construction techniques and everything becoming better. Ironically, now we have more pollution inside, where we spend 90% of our time. So what are some real simple things that somebody could do in their home or maybe their workplace to just increase the health of that place or reduce pollution?
Right. Well, so the simplest thing is probably changing a filter. Okay, I would get a high-grade filter myself, and ironically, because you'll be paying more because it's a high-grade filter, because it gets clogged more, since it collects more detritus and air matter, you're going to have to change it more. So not only are you paying more per filter, but you're going to have to change it probably, I don't know, we change ours about 5 times a year, something like that, rather than twice a year or 3 times a year. So it'll cost more, but it's a very simple, basic thing that you can do. Make sure on days like this, you open your doors and windows, turn off your air conditioning at least once a day, so you can open the doors and windows and get proper airflow. Those are basic things that you can do. Beyond that, they're more complicated. I mean, we have laminate, which gives off formaldehyde. I've talked to my wife about getting hardwood floors. Again, that's complicated. It takes time. It takes money. Getting rid of the carpets. These are major household decisions that you can make, but they also go a long way to reducing contaminants and pollutants in your household.
Okay. And so for those who don't have that freedom to make those changes, like you mentioned, it's a fairly complex thing. Basically maintenance, taking care of what you have, keeping it as clean as possible. Like a lot of people aren't aware, because allergists sometimes can give people misinformation on what carpet can do. Even though it is a synthetic product, it can help to collect allergens and keep those in a single place, much like a filter. But you need to keep that clean the way your filter is kept clean.
And there's a lot of folks who do what you do, Jesse, but I've known you for years, and I know that you really focus on low environmental impact, and you're very aware and conscious of exactly why you're developing this program here, to keep allergies and allergens down. So that's why I tell clients who are listening to this right now to use Jesse, use Cleaning Heroes, and not some of the other folks who are less conscious of what you're aware of.
Okay. Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. We do put a lot of time and energy into making sure that our clients are taken care of properly. So quickly to wrap up, one last thing. If after taking all those steps, keeping those filters clean, doing all the cleaning in the house, and a person still has that discomfort, maybe they still are having some long-term symptoms, you mentioned asthma, what are some of the underlying causes, and then what kind of action should they take then to begin working on those? And if they don't, maybe what risks are there for ignoring those symptoms from their body?
Well, come to see me, or come to see a naturopathic physician is probably something a little more general, I should say, because naturopathic physicians are the only physicians in the world that think outside the box. We're very good at treating these sorts of symptoms. A medical doctor is going to use steroids or steroid-based compounds, but they're not going to look at digestion, they're not going to look at your immune system. These are 2 very big factors that contribute to allergies and asthma. We'll run some basic tests, we'll talk to you about food and nutrition, we'll have you make those changes. We'll talk to you about some herbs. For instance, quercetin is an excellent example of an herb that's anti-inflammatory and histamine stabilizing. It's very high in capers, which is a food that not a lot of people probably are high on their list, but it's also high in onions, which is a food that a lot of people enjoy on a day-to-day basis. And we find that that's a food that can really decrease asthma and allergy symptoms. Another example is hydrochloric acid. In our very stressful societies, people's stomach acid tends to decline, and this leads to improper digestion. It leads to inflammation in the cardiovascular system and the immune system, and ultimately that can translate to filling up the bucket and leading to allergies. Okay. So if your physician doesn't talk to you about proper digestion and different herbs that you can take to do the same thing that a steroid would do, then consider making a naturopathic physician such as myself part of your team. Okay, I'm here at Bear Creek Naturopathic Clinic at 1012 East Jackson Street. So I'd be happy to help anybody who suffers from allergies and asthma.
Okay, and then don't you folks offer a complimentary consultation to begin with? Is it 15 minutes? Is that correct?
So if people are a little unsure about what's involved in working with a naturopathic physician, we offer the complimentary 15-minute consult. It's no cost to you except a little bit of time, and we're hoping that when you leave here, you'll be in a better position to decide whether you want to commit the time, energy, and resources to working with us. But we get results without prescription drugs, so that's the big take-home message.
Sure, and I'm sure there's, of course, a lot more information you'd love to share with people, maybe who are using contemporary, more modern medications and ways you might be able to, help their lifestyle beyond those things. So we encourage, of course, anybody who is watching this video then to contact you, and they can set up a time with your staff there to meet with you. So thank you, Dan, for taking time today. We really appreciate it. We hope that the people watching this video really benefit. That's our ultimate goal. Of course, we would love to provide those services for folks, too, that do need cleaning as a place to start. And then, of course, we really appreciate having the partnership with you and offering them then the ongoing care for their body, because that's ultimately what we're trying to protect. So any last things that you'd like to share with those folks who took the time to share this video with us?
Allergies and asthma is something that you do not need to suffer from. So, and you do not need to take prescription or over-the-counter medications like diphenhydramine, Benadryl. It's not necessary. There's a lot of things that you can do, between working with Cleaning Heroes and working with us here at Bear Creek Naturopathic Clinic. You can make allergies or an asthma a thing of the past.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate your time today.
Live cleaner, live better, go Cleaning Heroes.